Leroy Brown's handcuffs clinked as he shuffled into courtroom 3B of the Dallas County Courthouse, the air thick with humidity and tension on June 10, 2024. At 38, the black auto mechanic's broad shoulders were slumped, his orange jumpsuit stark against the polished oak of the defendant's table. His eyes, bloodshot from sleepless nights in county lockup, scanned the room. A cavern of high ceilings, flickering fluorescent lights, and rows of benches packed with spectators. Leroy was on trial for the murder of Brad Collins, a 45-year-old white man who'd tried to kill him outside his auto shop 6 months ago. Self-defense, Leroy's lawyer swore, but in Dallas, justice was a gamble, and the deck felt stacked. The courtroom on the 5th floor of the George L. Allen Sr. Courts building was a microcosm of the city's divides. The judge, Harold Grayson, a 62-year-old white man with a buzz cut and a drawl, presided from his elevated bench, his gavel a scepter. The prosecutor, Vanessa Holt, a 40-year-old white woman with sharp eyes, stood at her table, her navy suit pristine. Leroy's defense team, Anita Pierce, a 45-year-old black attorney with a reputation for tenacity, and her junior, Javier Ruiz, a 30-year-old Latino lawyer, flanked him, their files stacked high. The jury, 12 men and women, sat in 2 rows, 6 white, 4 black, 2 Latino, their faces a mix of curiosity and unease. Leroy's family filled the front row. His wife Monique, 36, a nurse, clutched their son, Jamal, 14, her eyes wet but fierce. His mother, Evelyn, 65, prayed softly, her Bible worn. Across the aisle, Brad's family glared. His widow, Cheryl, 42, in black, her sobs rehearsed. His brother, Travis, 48, a burly man with a Confederate flag tattoo peeking from his sleeve. The gallery buzzed with reporters, activists, and locals, some holding signs. Justice for Leroy. Others, no mercy for killers. The air conditioner hummed, but sweat beaded on Leroy's neck. The trial's opening was a gut punch. Vanessa Holt stood, her voice clear, addressing the jury. On December 15, 2023, Leroy Brown shot Brad Collins in cold blood outside his shop in Oak Cliff. This wasn't self-defense. It was vengeance, a calculated act by a man with a history of violence. Leroy's jaw tightened. His history was a 2005 misdemeanor for a bar fight, expunged, but Holt wielded it like a blade. Brad Collins, a family man, was unarmed when Leroy gunned him down. We'll prove murder in the first degree. Anita Pierce rose, her presence commanding. This is a case of survival. Brad Collins, a known member of the Aryan Vanguard, stalked Leroy for weeks, spewing racial slurs, threatening his life. On December 15th, Brad pulled a gun, intent on killing Leroy. My client acted to save himself, as any of us would. This is self-defense, plain and simple. Leroy's chest ached, the memory vivid. Brad's Glock, his scream of N*******************, die. The shot from Leroy's licensed .45, a single bullet to Brad's chest. The evidence unfolded in courtroom 3B's sterile light. Holt called her first witness, Officer Ryan Phelps, a white cop who'd arrested Leroy. Phelps, 35, stood tall, his badge gleaming. I arrived at Brown's auto at 7:42 p.m. Collins was dead, a .45 slug in his heart. Brown was calm, holding the gun. No other weapon was found. Anita cross-examined, her voice sharp. Officer, your report omits the 911 call where Leroy stated Collins drew first. Why? Phelps shrugged. Didn't seem relevant? The jury shifted, some frowning, others stone-faced. Monique testified next, her voice trembling. Brad came to the shop 3 times that week, calling Leroy slurs, saying he'd clean Oak Cliff of his kind. I begged Leroy to stay safe. Holt pounced. Mrs. Brown, wasn't your husband angry, ready to confront Collins? Monique's eyes blazed. He was scared, not angry. Leroy gripped the table, his knuckles white, as Cheryl Collins sobbed loudly, Travis whispering, liar. The courtroom's tension spiked on day 2, June 11th. Anita presented security footage from the shop, grainy but clear. Brad, in a camo jacket, raising a Glock at Leroy, who fired once. The jury leaned forward, but Holt objected. The footage is inconclusive. The gun could be anything. Judge Grayson, his face unreadable, allowed it, but his tone was curt. Move along, Miss Pierce. Anita called a ballistics expert, Dr. Lena Carter, a 50-year-old black woman. Residue on Collins's hand confirms he fired a weapon, Lena said. Holt countered, or he handled a gun earlier. It's not proof. The gallery murmured, activists scribbling notes. A black reporter, Tasha Green, tweeted, Brown's footage is damning, but will Grayson listen? #Justice for Leroy. Outside, protesters chanted, their voices faint through the courthouse's thick walls. Travis Collins stood shouting, "That's a fake video!" Grayson banged his gavel. "Order!" Leroy's heart sank. Grayson's eyes lingered on Travis, not the jury. Day 3 brought Brad's brother. Travis testified, his voice thick with grief. Brad was no racist. He was protecting our neighborhood. Leroy provoked him, shot him like a dog. Anita cross-examined, holding a photo. "Mr. Collins, is this your brother's Aryan Vanguard tattoo?" Travis faltered. "He got that years ago. Doesn't mean nothing." The jury's black members exchanged glances, but the white jurors stayed blank. Holt rested her case, her closing a sermon. Leroy Brown chose murder over restraint. Don't let him hide behind race. Anita's closing was fire. Leroy Brown faced a gun, a slur, a death threat. He acted to live. This isn't murder. It's survival in a world that targets men like him. Leroy stared at the jury, his life in their hands. Jamal clutched Monique, Evelyn praying louder. The jury deliberated for 2 days, the courthouse a pressure cooker. On June 14th, they returned. The foreman, a white man, reading not guilty of murder, guilty of manslaughter. Leroy's knees buckled, Monique gasping. Manslaughter carried 7 years, not life, but it wasn't freedom. Grayson sentenced him to 5 years, his gavel final. Anita vowed an appeal, but Leroy's eyes were hollow. "I protected myself," he whispered as bailiffs led him away. The gallery erupted, activists shouting, "Free Leroy!" Cheryl Collins sobbed, Travis yelling, "Justice is dead!" Tasha's tweet went viral. Leroy Brown saved his life, and Dallas punished him, #systemic racism. The courthouse didn't sleep. On June 20th, Anita filed an appeal in the same building, courtroom 4A, before Judge Carla Nguyen, a 48-year-old Asian woman. New evidence surfaced. A witness, Marcus Tate, a 30-year-old black delivery driver who'd seen Brad fire first but feared testifying earlier. Marcus, in a borrowed suit, faced Holt's wrath. "Why now, Mr. Tate? Paid to lie?" Marcus stood firm. "I was scared. Not anymore." Nguyen, her eyes sharp, admitted the testimony, scheduling a hearing for July 15th. The appeal process was a marathon in the courthouse's maze. Courtroom 4A's walls, lined with portraits of white judges, loomed over Leroy, now gaunt, his jumpsuit looser. Monique and Jamal attended every hearing, their savings drained for legal fees. Evelyn's health faltered, her prayers now whispers. Protests grew outside, 500 strong, chanting, "No justice, no peace." Inside, Holt painted Leroy as a violent opportunist, while Anita showed Brad's ex-posts filled with slurs and gun photos. This was premeditated hate, she argued. On July 20th, a bombshell hit. Tasha uncovered a juror's ex account from the original trial, posting, "Brown got lucky, should have been life." Anita filed for a mistrial, arguing bias. Grayson, in courtroom 3B, denied it, his voice cold. The verdict stands. Nguyen in 4A disagreed, ordering a new trial for August 10th, citing credible juror misconduct. Leroy in his cell below the courthouse wept, hope flickering. The new trial, back in courtroom 3B, was a crucible. Grayson recused himself under pressure, replaced by Judge Alicia Brooks, a 50-year-old black woman. Holt doubled down, calling a new witness, a white shop owner who claimed Leroy bragged about shooting. Anita shredded him, proving he'd been paid by Travis. Marcus's testimony, paired with the footage, swayed the jury. 8 black, 3 white, 1 Asian. On August 15th, they delivered, not guilty. Leroy collapsed, Monique sobbing, Jamal hugging him. The gallery roared, activists embracing, Tasha tweeting, "Leroy Brown is free, #justice won." Cheryl and Travis stormed out, vowing revenge. Leroy walked out of the courthouse on August 16th, 2024, the Dallas sun blinding, Monique's arms his anchor. The victory was scarred. His shop was failing, Evelyn hospitalized, Jamal traumatized. But Leroy spoke at a rally, 1,000 strong, in the courthouse plaza. "They tried to bury me," he said, "but we're still standing." His case sparked a DOJ probe into Dallas courts, exposing Grayson's bias history. Anita's firm launched a fund for self-defense cases named for Leroy. He rebuilt, one wrench at a time, but the courthouse's shadow lingered. Its oak, its gavel, its scales tipped by hate. Leroy's fight wasn't just his, it was every black man's, every survivor's, etched in Dallas stone. Leroy Brown's boots echoed on the marble floor of the Dallas County Courthouse, the familiar weight of courtroom 3B's oak doors looming as he entered on August 20th, 2024. At 38, the black auto mechanic's face was lined with exhaustion, his gray jail jumpsuit replaced by a borrowed Navy suit that hung loose on his frame, thinned by months in lockup. The courtroom, with its high ceilings, flickering lights, and packed benches, was a battlefield he thought he'd left behind. Cleared of murder and manslaughter charges for killing Brad Collins, a white racist who'd tried to shoot him, Leroy now faced a new war, a civil lawsuit from Brad's family, claiming wrongful death and demanding $2 million. In the same Dallas courthouse, justice was again a tightrope, and Leroy's life hung in the balance. The George L. Allen Sr. Courts building buzzed with humidity and tension, its fifth-floor courtroom a pressure cooker. Judge Margaret Ellison, a 58-year-old white woman with a pinched face and silver hair, presided, her gavel sharp. The plaintiff's attorney, Douglas Reed, a 50-year-old white man with a slick smile, stood at his table, his files neatly stacked. Leroy's defense team, Anita Pierce, the 45-year-old black attorney who'd won his criminal trial, and Javier Ruiz, her 30-year-old Latino partner, flanked him, their laptops glowing with evidence. The gallery was packed. Leroy's wife, Monique, 36, her nurse's scrubs swapped for a black dress, held their son, Jamal, 14, his eyes fierce. Leroy's mother, Evelyn, 65, now frail, clutched her Bible. Across the aisle, Brad's widow, Cheryl Collins, 42, dabbed her eyes, her brother-in-law, Travis Collins, 48, his Confederate flag tattoo barely hidden, glaring at Leroy. Reporters, activists, and locals filled the benches, signs banned but whispers loud, "Leroy's a hero," countered by, "He's a killer." The trial's opening was a knife to the gut. Douglas Reed stood, his voice smooth, addressing the jury. 7 white, 3 black, 2 Latino. Brad Collins was a husband, a father, taken from his family by Leroy Brown's reckless act on December 15, 2023. This wasn't self-defense, it was rage, a man settling a score. "We seek justice for a grieving family." Leroy's hands clenched, the memory searing. Brad's Glock, his slur, an asterisk, 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 die. The single shot from Leroy's .45 that saved his life. Anita rose, her voice ablade. Leroy Brown acted to survive a racist attack by Brad Collins, a documented Aryan Vanguard member. This lawsuit is revenge, not justice, targeting a black man for defending himself. The courtroom's air thickened as evidence unfolded. Reed called Cheryl Collins, her sobs practiced. "Brad was turning his life around," she said, her voice trembling. "Leroy shot him without warning." Anita cross-examined, holding Brad's ex-posts filled with slurs and gun photos. "Mrs. Collins, was your husband turning around when he posted, 'Oak Cliff needs cleaning'? Days before the incident?" Cheryl faltered. "He was angry, not violent." The jury's black members leaned forward, but the white jurors stayed impassive. Travis in the gallery muttered, "Lying bitch," earning a gavel bang from Ellison. "Order." On day 2, August 21st, Reed called a new witness, Gary Holt, a 55-year-old white mechanic who'd worked near Leroy's shop. "I heard Brown threaten Collins a week before, saying he'd end him," Gary claimed, his eyes darting. Anita pounced. "Mr. Holt, you never mentioned this in the criminal trial. Why now?" Gary shrugged. "Didn't think it mattered." Javier presented a bank record showing a $5,000 transfer from Travis to Gary days before. "Was this payment for your testimony?" Javier asked. Reed objected, but Ellison allowed it, her lips tight. "Answer, Mr. Holt," Gary stammered. "It was a loan." The jury murmured, doubt creeping in. Leroy testified on August 22nd, his voice steady but raw. "Brad came to my shop 3 times, calling me slurs, saying he'd kill me. That night, he pulled a gun. I fired to live." Reed attacked, his tone icy. "Mr. Brown, you're a trained shooter, aren't you? Why not disarm him instead?" Leroy's eyes burned. "I had 1 second and a gun in my face." The gallery shifted, Monique gripping Jamal's hand, Evelyn praying softly. A black activist, Simone Carter, tweeted from the back, "Leroy's fighting for his life again. #Dallas Injustice." Outside, protesters chanted, their voices muffled by the courthouse's walls. The tension spiked on August 23rd when Reed presented a surprise witness, Emily Vaughn, a 30-year-old white woman who claimed to be Brad's cousin. "Brad told me Leroy harassed him, provoked him," she said, her tears flowing. Anita cross-examined, holding a photo. "Miss Vaughn, this is you at an Aryan Vanguard rally in 2022. Were you coached to lie?" Emily froze, Reed objecting. Ellison sustained, but the jury's eyes widened. Simone's tweet went viral. Vanguard in the courtroom. Leroy's screwed. #systemic bias. Travis stood shouting, "She's family, not a liar." Ellison's gavel cracked. "Sit or you're out." The courthouse's corridors became a war zone between hearings. On August 25th, Travis cornered Monique in the 5th floor hallway, his voice low. "Your husband's a dead man, win or lose." Monique, trembling, reported it to security, but the guard, a white man, shrugged. "He's just upset." Anita filed a restraining order in courtroom 4C, Judge Carla Nguyen presiding. Nguyen, 48, granted it, warning Travis, "One more threat and you're in cuffs." Travis smirked, his eyes on Leroy, who stood silent, his heart pounding. The trial resumed on August 26th, Anita calling Marcus Tate, the delivery driver who'd saved Leroy's criminal case. "I saw Brad fire first," Marcus said, his voice firm. Reed attacked. "Mr. Tate, you're a friend of Brown's, aren't you?" "Biased?" Marcus shook his head. "I'm telling the truth." The jury's Latino members nodded, but the white jurors stayed stone-faced. Reed's closing was venom. "Leroy Brown killed a man and now plays victim. Don't let him profit from tragedy." Anita's closing was a plea. Leroy faced death and chose life. This lawsuit is racism dressed in grief. The jury deliberated for 3 days, the courthouse a cauldron. On August 29th, they ruled. Leroy was liable, ordered to pay $500,000. His shop, already struggling, would collapse. Monique gasped, Jamal sobbing, Evelyn collapsing, medics rushing in. Anita vowed an appeal, but Leroy's eyes were empty. "I'm done," he whispered as bailiffs cleared the room. The gallery erupted, activists shouting, "Shame on Dallas." Cheryl and Travis smiled, their victory bitter. Simone's tweet hit 1 million views. Leroy Brown saved himself and Dallas bankrupted him. #justice denied. The appeal process began on September 10th back in courtroom 4A before Judge Nguyen. Anita presented new evidence. A voicemail from Travis to Cheryl saying, "We'll bleed Brown dry no matter what." Nguyen admitted it, scheduling a hearing for October 15th. The courthouse's walls, lined with old judges' portraits, seemed to close in. Leroy, out on bond, worked odd jobs, his shop shuttered. Monique took double shifts, Jamal skipped school, his anger boiling. Evelyn, now bedridden, prayed through oxygen tubes. Protests swelled outside, 1,000 chanting, "Free Leroy's future." On October 20th, a bombshell hit. Simone uncovered a juror's email, sent mid-trial, calling Leroy a thug who got lucky. Anita filed for a mistrial in courtroom 4A, arguing bias. Nguyen, her eyes blazing, ordered a new trial for November 10th, citing egregious misconduct. Leroy, in the courthouse's basement holding cell, hugged Anita, hope flickering. Travis, enraged, violated his restraining order, texting Monique, "You're all dead." Nguyen in courtroom 4C jailed him for 30 days, but the damage was done. The new trial in courtroom 3B was a crucible. Judge Alicia Brooks, the black woman from Leroy's criminal acquittal, presided. Reed doubled down, calling a new witness, a white cop, who claimed Leroy bragged about the shooting. Anita disproved it with timestamps, showing the cop wasn't there. Marcus's testimony, paired with the voicemail, shifted the jury. 6 black, 4 white, 2 Latino. On November 15th, they ruled Leroy was not liable. Leroy wept, Monique embracing him, Jamal's smile faint but real. The gallery roared, activists chanting, "Justice." Simone tweeted, "Leroy Brown won, Dallas can't break him, #victory." Cheryl stormed out, Travis still in jail. But the victory was Pyrrhic. On December 1st, Evelyn died, her heart failing under the stress. Leroy's shop was gone, his family's savings drained. Protests continued, 2,000 strong, demanding court reforms. The final blow came on January 10th, 2025. Travis released, ambushed Leroy in the courthouse parking garage, slashing his arm with a knife. Security tackled Travis, but Leroy needed 20 stitches. His spirit shattered. He sued Travis in courtroom 4A, winning $100,000 on March 1st, but the money couldn't heal. Monique and Jamal moved to Houston, needing distance. Leroy stayed, speaking at rallies in the courthouse plaza, 3,000 strong. "They tried to ruin me," he said, "but we're still here." His case sparked a Texas bar investigation into Reed's ethics, and the DOJ expanded its probe into Dallas courts. Anita's fund grew, helping others like Leroy. He rebuilt, one job at a time, but courtroom 3B's oak and gavel haunted him, a symbol of hate, but also of resilience. Leroy's fight lived, a beacon for every black man facing a biased scale. Leroy Brown's footsteps echoed in the polished corridors of the Dallas County Courthouse, the heavy oak doors of courtroom 4A looming as he entered on June 5, 2025. At 39, the black auto mechanic's broad frame was hunched, his navy suit, the same one from his criminal and civil trials, fraying at the cuffs, a symbol of his battered life. The fluorescent lights of the fifth-floor courtroom cast harsh shadows on his face, scarred from Travis Collins's knife attack 6 months ago. Leroy had survived a murder charge and a wrongful death lawsuit for killing Brad Collins, a white racist who'd tried to gun him down, but now faced a new battle. A defamation lawsuit from his former employer, Lone Star Auto Group, claiming his public statements about racism in Dallas had damaged their reputation. In the same courthouse, the scales of justice tilted again, and Leroy's soul was on trial. Courtroom 4A, with its high ceilings, creaking benches, and stale air, was a crucible of Dallas's divides. Judge Carla Nguyen, the 48-year-old Asian woman who'd overseen Leroy's appeal, presided, her gaze sharp but weary. The plaintiff's attorney, Catherine Walsh, a 42-year-old white woman with a crisp blazer and a predatory smile, stood at her table, her legal team flanked by Lone Star's CEO, Ronald Hayes, a 60-year-old white man in a tailored suit. Leroy's defense, Anita Pierce, the 45-year-old black attorney who'd fought for him twice, and Javier Ruiz, her 30-year-old Latino partner, sat beside him, their files a fortress. The gallery was packed. Monique, Leroy's 36-year-old wife, her nurse's resilience fading, held Jamal, 15, his eyes burning with anger. Evelyn was gone, her death still raw. Across the aisle, Travis Collins, 48, out of jail, sat with Lone Star's supporters, his Confederate flag tattoo a silent threat. Reporters, activists, and locals filled the benches, their whispers a storm. "Leroy's fighting for us," clashed with, "He's a liar." The trial's opening was a sledgehammer. Catherine Walsh stood, her voice cutting, addressing the jury, 8 white, 3 black, 1 Asian. Leroy Brown's reckless claims of systemic racism in Dallas, made on X and at rallies, defamed Lone Star Auto Group, costing us $3 million in contracts. His words weren't truth, they were vengeance, smearing an honest business. Leroy's hands shook, his speeches replaying. "Dallas tried to bury me for being black." Anita rose, her voice fierce. Leroy Brown spoke his truth after surviving a racist attack and biased trials. Lone Star's lawsuit is retaliation, silencing a black man for exposing injustice. The courtroom's tension crackled as evidence unfolded. Walsh called Ronald Hayes, his tone polished. Brown's statements painted Lone Star as a racist company, driving away clients. He was fired for theft in 2023, not race. Anita cross-examined, holding a document. "Mr. Hayes, this is an email from you calling Leroy that troublemaker after he reported a coworker's slurs. Was that about theft?" Hayes faltered. "I was frustrated." The jury's black members leaned in, but the white jurors stayed blank. Travis in the gallery muttered, "He's a thief," earning a glare from Nguyen. "Quiet or you're out." On June 6th, Walsh called a Lone Star manager, Karen Phelps, a 50-year-old white woman. "Leroy was aggressive, stole parts, and slandered us after his firing," she said, her eyes cold. Javier cross-examined, presenting a video from Leroy's shop. "Miss Phelps, this shows you refusing to serve black customers in 2022. Did Leroy's slander expose that?" Walsh objected, but Nguyen allowed it. "Answer." Karen stammered, "That's unrelated." The jury murmured, doubt flickering. Simone Carter, the black activist, tweeted from the back, "Lone Star's lies are crumbling. #stand with Leroy." Leroy testified on June 7th, his voice raw but steady. "I spoke out because Brad Collins tried to kill me, and the system protected him. Lone Star fired me after I called out their racism, not for theft." Walsh attacked, her tone venomous. "Mr. Brown, you profited from your story, rallies, interviews. Wasn't this a scheme to extort money?" Leroy's eyes burned. "I lost my shop, my mom, my peace. I spoke to survive." Monique gripped Jamal's hand, tears falling. A white spectator hissed, "Liar," and Nguyen's gavel cracked. "Order!" The courthouse's corridors were a minefield between hearings. On June 8th, Travis confronted Javier outside 4A, his voice low. "Your client's finished, Spick." Javier, unfazed, reported it to security, but the guard, a white man, shrugged. "Just talk." Anita filed a complaint in courtroom 4C, Nguyen issuing a warning to Travis. "One more and you're detained." Travis smirked, his eyes on Leroy, who stood silent, his scar throbbing. Protesters outside, 1,500 strong, chanted, "Truth for Leroy," their voices seeping through the courthouse's stone. The trial resumed on June 9th, Anita calling Tasha Green, the black reporter who'd broken Leroy's story. Brown's statements were factual, Tasha said, presenting ex-posts from Lone Star employees using slurs. Walsh attacked. "Miss Green, you're an activist, not a journalist. Biased?" Tasha stood firm. "I report truth." The jury's Asian member nodded, but the white jurors stayed stone-faced. Walsh's surprise witness, a former Lone Star clerk, claimed Leroy threatened staff. Anita disproved it with timestamps, showing the clerk was fired for fraud. Nguyen's eyes narrowed, sensing manipulation. On June 10th, a bombshell hit. Simone uncovered a Lone Star email sent mid-trial instructing Walsh to bury Brown at all costs. Anita presented it in 4A, demanding a mistrial. Walsh objected, claiming it was internal strategy. Nguyen denied the mistrial but sanctioned Lone Star $10,000, warning, "No more games." The gallery buzzed, activists whispering, "They're scared." Travis stood, shouting, "This is a witch hunt." Nguyen ejected him, security dragging him out. Simone's tweet went viral. Lone Stars caught red-handed. #Leroy fights. The jury deliberated for 2 days, the courthouse of Furnace. On June 12th, they ruled. Leroy was liable for defamation, ordered to pay $750,000. His savings, already gone, couldn't cover it. Bankruptcy loomed. Monique collapsed, Jamal punching a wall, his knuckles bleeding. Anita vowed an appeal, but Leroy's voice was hollow. "They won't stop," he whispered as bailiffs cleared the room. Protesters outside, 2,000 strong, roared, "Dallas is broken." Cheryl Collins in the gallery smiled faintly, Travis's absence a small relief. The appeal process began on July 15th in courtroom 3B, before Judge Alicia Brooks, the 50-year-old black woman who'd freed Leroy before. Anita presented the email and new evidence. A Lone Star whistleblower, Maria Gomez, a 35-year-old Latina accountant who'd found payments to witnesses. Maria testified, her voice shaking. "They bribed people to lie about Brown." Walsh attacked. "Miss Gomez, you're disgruntled, fired for errors. Why trust you?" Maria held up bank records. "This isn't errors." Brooks admitted it, scheduling a hearing for August 20th. The courthouse's walls seemed to close in. Leroy, working as a janitor, lived in a one-room apartment. Monique and Jamal in Houston, their marriage fraying. Jamal, now 15, joined protests, his anger spilling into fights. On August 25th, a new threat emerged. Travis, released, sent Leroy a letter, slipped under his door, reading, "You'll pay in blood." Anita filed for a new restraining order in courtroom 4C, Nguyen granting it, but Travis vanished, dodging police. Protesters, now 3,000, chanted, "Protect Leroy!" The appeal hearing in 3B was a storm. On September 10th, Brooks uncovered a juror's ex-post calling Leroy a race hustler. Anita demanded a mistrial, and Brooks granted it, ordering a new trial for October 15th, citing blatant bias. Leroy, in the courthouse's holding cell, hugged Javier, hope flickering, but tragedy struck. On October 1st, Jamal, at a rally outside, was beaten by Travis's allies, his arm broken. Monique, sobbing, blamed Leroy. "Your fight's killing him." She left for good, taking Jamal. The new trial in courtroom 4A was a last stand. Nguyen presided, Walsh doubling down with a new witness, a white ex-cop, claiming Leroy planned his story for fame. Anita disproved it with emails showing the cop's Vanguard ties. Maria's testimony, paired with the whistleblower records, shifted the jury. 7 black, 4 white, 1 Latino. On October 20th, they ruled Leroy was not liable. Leroy broke, tears falling, the gallery erupting, activists chanting, "Freedom!" Simone tweeted, "Leroy Brown beat the machine, #Justice Lives." But the cost was crushing. On November 1st, Leroy learned Jamal had joined a gang in Houston, lost to anger. Monique refused contact, her silence a wound. Travis, arrested for the rally attack, got 2 years, but his allies vandalized Leroy's apartment. An asterisk, 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 scrawled inside. Leroy fought on. On January 10th, 2026, he sued Lone Star in courtroom 3B for malicious prosecution, winning $200,000. He donated half to Anita's fund, now national. Protests, 5,000 strong, filled the courthouse plaza, demanding corporate accountability. The DOJ's probe led to Walsh's disbarment, and Lone Star settled with employees for $10 million. By April 1st, 2026, Leroy lived alone, working odd jobs, speaking at schools, 2,000 students hearing his story. They tried to silence me, he told them in the courthouse's community room, but truth speaks louder. His scars, Evelyn's death, Jamal's loss, the knife wound, burned, but his fight reshaped Dallas, one courtroom at a time.